Hello, and welcome to Tech Tuesday, presented by Delta Media Group, where we always go out of our way to make sure the inertial dampeners are online before going to warp. Makes a mess otherwise. So, today we are going to take a look at some new functionality that we have added to our campaigns and action plan system. Now, to give you a little background, what this allows you to do is either send out a random message as part of a campaign. So instead of sending out exactly the same message to everyone that gets it every time they get it, you could specify multiple messages as part of a group, and they'll get one of those messages at random each time. It's particularly useful for things like anniversary cards, birthday cards, so you're not sending them exactly the same design every year. Also, so every customer doesn't get exactly the same design. Now, the other thing you can do is if you have the SMS functionality turned on, so a virtual phone number is basically how you turn that on. So if you have set up a virtual phone number and you have the SMS functionality turned on, you can use a message group to send an SMS message to all those that are eligible to receive one and send an email to all those that are not, which allows you to set up campaigns that can do things like send out the text message to everybody that can get one, but then for those that can't get one, they instead get a message that includes similar information, but also includes a link that says, hey, did you know you could get text messages from me automatically? Click here to opt in, or click here to sign in and see those messages, or sign in. Click here to sign in to opt in to those messages. There we go. So it gives you some more freedom as far as how you can build out your campaigns and build out that functionality. So first off, just to give you an idea, we're going to go, I'll click on my name here and I'm going to click on profile, and we'll just go down and show you where you can turn on a virtual phone number if you haven't. So we'll scroll down here, and actually I think I went down too far. We're getting there. There we go. I went down way too far. So personal phone numbers is the section we're looking for. So if you scroll down, find the personal phone numbers section, you can see I already have a virtual phone number set up, but if I did not, there would be a button here that allows you to requisition one, we'll say. So you would see a button here that says set up a virtual phone number, and if you clicked on it, it would take you to a page that just walks you through the rest of the process. You have to have a cell phone number in place because that is how it uses, or that is what it uses to figure out what zip code it should set for your virtual phone number. So you have to have a cell phone number set, but then if you do, you just click that button and follow through the steps, and then you'll have a virtual phone number set up, and you will be able to send SMS messages through the DeltaNet to any customers that are opted in to receive those. So once you have that set up, if you so choose, and you want to see how to set up a virtual group message, then what we're going to do is go to the Campaigns and Action Plans page. So by default, I can either go over here to Marketing, and I can find that in the drop-down, Campaigns and Action Plans. More than likely, there is also a link to it on the marketing landing page. Again, these are customizable per company, so whether or not that is on this page will depend on how your company has these tiles set up. But lastly, you can also get to it from the drop-down at the top. So if I just type in Campaigns, there we go. You can see the first thing, Marketing, Campaigns and Action Plans. So however I choose to get there, when I click on it, it will ultimately take me to my Message Campaigns and Action Plans setup page. So from here, if I want to set up a message group, and I'm not going to go through all the campaigns in detail because we do have numerous videos that kind of go through the campaign system and the different things you can do. But I will go as far as setting up a new campaign, and then we're going to go ahead and add a message group to it and see what it looks like. So I'm going to click on Add New Campaign, and we'll just give it a title here. We'll call it our TT Message Group Campaign. We'll leave the scope on private. This is only going to show up for me. I don't need any external triggers or any of that thing for this campaign, so we're just going to get this set up, save, and now we can track down our campaign. So what I'm going to do is switch my status to all, so it just shows me all the campaigns, and then I can search for them by title over here. So we call this the TT Message Group Campaign. So we'll just start typing that, and there we go. So that narrows us down here. And now in order to modify this campaign or start adding messages to it, I'm just going to click on the name of the campaign right here. So here we are. That opens up my Campaigns and Actions modal. So this is where I create all the new campaigns and actions I'd like to add here. Now I can click on either one of these buttons to go ahead and add one, so I'll just click on the one in the middle because why not? And you can see, in addition to creating an email or creating an action as part of this campaign, I have a new option to create a message group. So if I click on that, you can see that brings up my kind of standard message modal. So from here, I'm creating the very first message of this campaign. So I can create email or SMS, whichever I'd like. So in our example, I'll just set up a couple of SMS messages and a couple of email messages, and then we can kind of just go over how those things interact. So we'll switch this to SMS. We'll create those first. Now it gives me a warning here that changing this will affect the formatting of the message. And the reason for that is you're not going to include all the same things in a text message that you would in an email. And it doesn't support all the same things. So that's worth keeping in mind. So we'll agree to that, and we'll set up our text message. So the thing that we will only see here on the initial setup of the first message of a message group is the settings that allow me to determine when it sends. For the rest, I'm creating a group of messages that are all designed to send on the same day, but the system is going to pick which message actually sends on a per recipient basis. So I can really only set one send date for that entire group of messages. So that's why it only appears here on this first one. Now, to set these up, I have all the same options I would with any other email or SMS message, like individual message that I would send through a campaign. So we have interval. This would be day 1 it's an interval based on the day the customer was added to the campaign. So interval day 1 means the day they're added is the day the message goes. I can make this whatever I want. If I wanted it to send on the 60th day after they're added, I would just change this to a 60. Simple as that. I can go with date, where I pick an actual specific date for it to send. And you can see I have options for every year, every month. So if I had a recurring message, I could say every month on the 1st. So now the 1st of every month is when this message will send. Next, I have birthday. So if I have customers added to this campaign that have a birth date recorded in their profile, that's the day it will send to that customer. Purchase anniversary, same deal. Agent work anniversary and wedding anniversary. They all work exactly the same way as birthday, except they're looking at different dates. Now, I'll just mention while we're here that this is particularly nice for, as I mentioned before, the birthday one, because I could drive this on birthday, and I could set up multiple email type messages that all look different. They all just use a different template or have a different view. They just look different. That way, everyone this sends to will potentially get something different at random. So it's some nice functionality to be able to accommodate in here. All right, so for the sake of our example, we'll leave this on SMS and we'll just go with our interval day 60. Now for a text message, I'm going to give it a subject, but it's not a subject in the same way an email is. SMS messages don't have a subject line on their own, so this is really just more for me to be able to identify which message it is that I'm editing if I ever want to edit it, or if I want to read into what it sends. So for subject, we'll just put first message. Dear customer, hey there. That's a pretty good message, right? All right, so that's all set up, so I'm going to click on Save. So there we go. There's our first message in the group. I can now edit that or delete it if I'd like. Just click on Actions here. I could publish this, though it would be a little silly to do that now because it's a message group with only one message. So it's the same as if I had just put one message in here. Or I can do what's kind of intended here. I can add an additional message. So we'll say Add Message. And now let's do another SMS message. Gives us that same formatting warning. Also, first message. Now, better yet, alternate first message. Call it like a primary and secondary, right? Now you can see it gathered some of the information from the forms here, so I could use that, or I can just make a new message. Alternate, hey there, with an exclamation point. Save that one. So now we have our two messages. So now let's add some emails. So I'm going to add message. Same deal, only we're going to leave it on email this time. Now this is not just for my reference, because I'm sending an email this time. So this is actually the message that, or the subject line that's going to appear on the email that goes to the customer. So you'll want to keep that in mind and how that differs from an SMS message. So in this case, it's not just going to be a reference piece, so I'll actually make this, hey there, new friend. There we go. I like it. We'll stick with that. Dear customer, thanks for being a friend. You'll want to use better content for these messages than I'm using, but for the sake of demonstration, I think this works okay. So there's our first email message, so we're going to save that one. Now we have 2 SMS messages and an email in here, and we'll add one more email for good measure. Maybe they like the word pal instead of friend better. There we are. Okay, so now we have our messages set up. So from here, we can go back in later on and we can remove messages. We can edit them as we see fit. So we do have the option there. You can see I have the options to edit or delete on each one of these. But from this point, I can actually publish this message. So when I publish it, this thing's ready to go. Now, before we leave this page, I'll just mention that the way this works is it will prioritize SMS messages. So what it's doing is it will try to send whatever SMS messages there are first. And if it can't, now it's doing this on a per recipient basis. So if you have 100 customers in this campaign, when it goes to send, it's cycling through each one of those customers one at a time when it actually sends the message. So on the first customer, it's going to look at that customer and say, are they able to receive an SMS message? Are they opted in? If they are, it will choose one of these 2 messages at random, and it will send them that message. If they're not, it'll move on to the emails. Now, if there weren't any emails, it wouldn't send them anything because it can't. But since there are emails, it's going to move on to the emails from there, and it will choose one of these 2 emails at random, and that's the email it'll get. So most of the time, if you're doing this for the purpose of sending an alternate message to customers that aren't opted into SMS messages, you won't put 2 SMS messages and 2 emails in here. You'll probably just have 1 SMS message and 1 email that it'll send as an alternative if they don't. I'm just doing it this way to convey how it would work and convey it as, as an example. This is how this thing's going to interpret this. Now, the time that you would have multiple alternate messages, most likely, now you could do it with SMS messages. You could have 10 different SMS messages in here that are all a little bit different so that every customer gets a slightly different message. So it could be an interesting thing to explore. So it would be capable of that. But typically you'll do that for emails. Now you might have 10 emails in here that are all a little bit different, a little bit of a different template, or just a different design altogether. But they're all happy birthday emails. So they're all set to go out on birthday, but there's 10 variations in here. And every recipient will get one of those 10 variations at random. So that's kind of the intended functionality here. So once you have it all set up, whatever the case is, however you'd like it to be, you just click on Publish. And now you can see that message is part of the campaign, and it has all the same tracking metrics that the regular messages, regular emails would have as part of a campaign, and it's already published, so it's ready to go. So at this point, I created a brand new campaign, so it doesn't have any customers in it. I would have to add customers for it to actually have someone to send to, but this thing's all ready to send 60 days after the customer is added to this campaign. So from here, now I can get back to this modal. So if I were to close this and go on about my day, I can always get back to it by going back into the campaign system and just clicking on the campaign title, and there you have it. But from here, I can now click View if I want to view previews of this. You can see this is an SMS message. I can send myself a preview from here, or I can just preview the next message. So that's the other SMS message, which apparently I left my signature in there. And there we are, next message, and this is moving on to the emails. So it's just a convenient way that I can cycle through these previews. Now keep in mind there's not like a next and previous button. This is just, it's previewing the next one and it cycles through them. So I can just keep looping through them this way. And then if I wanted to actually send myself a preview so I can see what each message would look like as a text message or actually in my email, I just click the Send Preview button, and that will send me a preview of the message that I'm looking at here. Now from here, I could also click here and I could just start adding new messages. So if I wanted to click there, it would take me back over here and I can add another message to the campaign or another message group to the campaign. You can have multiple message groups because why not? So we'll close that back out, go back in here. So here we are back on our just message overview for this campaign. Now the next thing I can do with a message group is I have a Manage Message Group button. So if we click on that, you can see this takes me back to the page I was just at that allows me to delete, edit, or add any additional messages to that group. So it just takes me kind of back to that circle. The order of these doesn't matter because, like I said, the system will always prioritize the SMS messages first, and then from there it's choosing within that type of message at random. So it doesn't matter what order they're in here, it's going to be random either way. So we'll close that out, and then one more time, We'll click here to go back into our message overview for the campaign. You can see we still have our actions button here, so I can click on actions. From here, I can remove this message altogether. So if I wanted to get rid of the entire message group, I could delete the whole thing. Disable will also disable the entire message group, so none of those messages in that group will send. And then edit draft allows me to change this core send date attached to this particular message group. This is the only place that I can modify the actual send date or send time, I guess you could say, with interval, but the actual time that the message will send or the day the message will send. So this is how I would modify that. Now from here, I could save draft if I just wanted to, put this in here and I wanted to go back and maybe finalize it before I publish it. But generally I would go in here and let's say we'll change this to date. We wanted to send out the 1st of every month. No, maybe not the 1st. I only say that because today's the 1st and I don't want to send myself a message. But there are no customers in the campaign anyway, so right now it still wouldn't send. But we'll say the 15th of every month because why not? Publish. Are you sure you want to publish? I am. So there we are. Now it's published. And if we take a look in here, now it's going to send on the first day of every month or not the first day, every year, every month on the 15th. So 15th of every month. This will send out, and when it does send out, it will choose one of these 2 SMS messages at random if the recipient is able to receive an SMS message, or it will pick one of these 2 emails at random if they are not. So there you have it. I got a little long-winded with that, but I wanted to be as thorough as I can. There's some complexity there. It's not, particularly difficult, but there is some complexity when it comes to kind of how the whole thing interacts and how the system chooses which message to send and all that. So there you have it. That is how you can set up a message group as part of a campaign in the DeltaNet that will allow you to send alternate types of messages and also allow you, well, really, that's just it. Variations of a single message or alternate types of messages, depending on what the recipient is able to receive. So, as always, thanks a lot for joining me. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, feel free to reach out to our support team by emailing support@deltagroup.com or giving us a call. And I'll see you next week. Thanks a lot.